All right, welcome everyone. Chris Petri here. We're going to have a great time painting this beautiful Andrew Wyeth painting. And essentially this is the style he painted, shore scenes, structures, houses. He did all this kind of work along the Maine and Pennsylvania areas of the United States, in the Northeast of the United States. So we're going to cover all the details you might need, starting out from the very beginning of the painting. We're going to cover doing a preliminary sketch like this, a tonal value sketch to start out with, where you're going to figure out where all your darks, your mediums, and your lights are in your painting first. Then you're going to put that next to you as you create your painting and your drawing and your painting. And that will give you a successful time of creating your painting. So if you have a plan to start with, you're going to be a lot better. We'll cover that plan of tonal value sketch first, this, pencil drawing second. We'll show you how to kind of get that pencil sketch using this first tonal value sketch we did. And then, of course, the painting. We'll cover all the colors we use, how to put the washes on. We're using the glazing technique, which is a wash, the light wash, the very, very light wash first. Let it dry 100%. Second wash after that. We put that on, we let it dry 100%, and then we come back on our final washes and final glazings of the darkest darks in the painting, which would be the chimneys, the shadows under the roofs, the rocks that are along the beautiful shore house here, and then some of these other details here that we have in the foreground. So we're going to cover all of this in this video, and we'll get started in a second or two, okay? All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome again, everybody. You just saw the finished painting, and my goal here is to help you to create a beautiful painting as Andrew Wyeth would have painted his paintings. There's no reason why you can't accomplish this goal in the watercolor medium. You're at the right place at the right time. With watercolors, I always mention here on my channel on YouTube, I have all of the information you would ever need to create beautiful watercolor paintings. I have hundreds of videos in my archives, and I'm always creating new videos as we work along together each week. So if you're following along and you're also going back into the archives of my videos, you'll be able to get all of the information you need to create beautiful watercolors just like Andrew Wyeth painted. No reason why you can't do that. And we're going to actually show you here on this video how you can actually paint this beautiful Wyeth style painting with not a lot of fuss and difficulty. Okay, so let's kind of go through each of the steps as we're going to go here. And you might be able to write down some notes here, or maybe you're really someone that can really memorize things as you go, so maybe you don't even need to take notes. That's up to you. You're the artist, or you're just starting out for the first time. Welcome if you're here for the first time. I think anyone, either if you're just starting today, or if you've been painting for 6 months, a year, or you're an old grizzled pro and you've been painting 10 years, there's no reason why you can't attempt a beautiful Wyeth style painting. We're going to do that here. So just as we go here, we'll kind of talk about different things. But the first thing I wanted to do is kind of show you, I'm just using some printer paper here. And what I'll do is I'll just take a Sharpie marker like this, and we'll just make our border. So we're going to kind of just create our border that we would consider this like the frame of our painting, or maybe the mat that goes around our painting. So we're going to have our basic dimensions of our paper like so. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some considerations as far as how are we going to break up the space divisions in our painting. So we wouldn't just go off willy-nilly and start creating a drawing without thinking about considering where the space divisions of our painting are going to be. Like, where's the main information going to be in our painting? So here, let's take a look and see what we're going to do. Let's consider our painting like three parts, 1, 2, and 3 vertically. So we're going to say vertically, let's kind of create thirds, 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. And then you could even just over here make a quick note, 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3 going up the paper. So this is going to be our space divisions for our painting here. And then what we're going to do is we'll do a little bit of a sketching here to kind of get the feel of what we're going to do. And so here I'll do the top of the It's like basically a sand dune, a sand dune along the ocean. And then above here we're going to have our house. So we have a house along the beautiful shore here, like this. So we're going to just kind of have a basic kind of some roofs here. So we're just going to create some roofs. Nothing too fancy, just some roof shapes here, like this, like that. And over here we'll do some water. So this is going to be some water over here and some water over here, like that. So we want to see a little bit of the water, the ocean over here. So we'll create that. You could even have a secondary color. You can have a couple of there's, Sharpies come in like wonderful colors. You can purchase those Sharpie. Maybe I'll put that in the description. I always put my art supplies, just incidentally, I put my art supplies that I use, my own personal art supplies that I use all the time for my watercolors, my oil painting, all of my artwork. I put that down below because I've used it all and it works for me, and it's really good quality. So I would never kind of put some links to art supplies below if I didn't know they work really well. So anything I'm putting down below in the description box below, you might have to click the more button. Sometimes you have to click more information below in the description box, and that'll show you more information, and you'll see the links that I have to usually Amazon. I shop exclusively on Amazon. Once in a while I'll buy some other items from like Blick's or Cheap Joe's, but most times I do purchase from Amazon because they have mostly everything I would ever need for watercolor and oil painting. But we're doing watercolor painting here, but I'm using some blue Sharpie marker. And again, they have Sharpie marker kits that have like 20 different colors, so you can really have fun with the Sharpie markers and have all different colors that you might need. But I'll put some blue in here for the water, just to remind myself that when we're doing this sketch, I want to leave some water in my painting, in our watercolor painting. So let's remember that we want some water in this painting. And then as we move along here, we're just again doing a quick sketch to get ourselves kind of familiar with what we're going to need to do when we do our pencil drawing on the watercolor paper. So underneath here is the watercolor paper. This is Arch's rough paper. It's the orange cover. So if you're looking for paper, and again I have this down below in the description box, links to Arch's paper on Amazon. But basically this is like the top of the top-notch paper that all like professional watercolor artists will use. It's just great paper. It handles beautifully. I can't describe how phenomenal it is. You can just get so many effects with it. It handles, again, great when you're putting washes on. Gives you lots of working time, so you don't have to stress over trying to rush through your watercolors. If you have a good paper, you're using like an excellent quality paper like Arch's, you don't have to rush on your painting. When you're doing watercolor painting, you can kind of take your time more, because things are going to just slowly, the washes will dry slowly, so you have plenty of time to kind of work with all your washes on your paper. Just a little side note there. But in any case, okay, so we have the idea that we want to do a pencil sketch next, but we're doing this first on printer paper with some Sharpie marker, just so we have a little bit of a dry run first as we go. So then, now that we have our roofs over here, and maybe we'll use a larger Sharpie marker like this, and then we can just we're going to have some really, really good strong shadows under the roofs here. So I'll use the thick Sharpie marker here, like that. Okay, and then we're going to have fences here. We're going to have some wood fencing. So that's going to be like this. So that's some hurricane fence there. Just a quick little, note on that with some Sharpie marker. And then maybe there is some darker washes up here, darker tones or tonal values as we call them. But you just remember, we're working with darks and lights. So in this painting, as we create this painting, and again, we're going to make it simple so you can create this painting 1, 2, 3. You can, if you're just starting out for the first time and you want to paint a WYETH painting in watercolor, you're going to be able to do it. We're going to, basically, we're setting up our format that we're going to use once we sketch and paint our painting. So right now we're getting the darks and lights of the painting, our tonal values as we call them, but they're basically the darks and lights of the painting. So you're going to see that I'm creating these darks and lights as we go to set everything up so that when we do our sketch and our painting, we'll kind of know where the real darks are. So yes, this will be the darks here, and then we're going to have a window or two over here, maybe a window here, a window there. That's going to be a dark, some darks there. And then there's maybe a couple rocks or something over here that are going to be some darks, like that. Like that. And then might be a couple of dark bits over here. And then the same thing over here, a couple of bits of rocks and stones and things along the sand dunes. Or some dirt. And I think that's good. That'll really give us a basic light and darks of the painting, but the light is coming from behind here. So if you can imagine, if we draw a light, if we draw a spotlight like this, the light's coming from the back, behind, facing our face. So if you can imagine, the light, the sunlight is sort of in front of us, shining this way. So that's why we have some of these really, really darks here. And then we're also going to, if I can mention this, let's use a little bit of I'll use a pencil here, and we'll get some more darks on these roofs, because these roofs are going to look somewhat dark too as we paint. So I'll use some pencil here. And that's pretty dark. You might even take a little bit of your Sharpie and do this. So if you have some Sharpies or some magic markers, you can sort of, you can get these, some of these tonal values, these darks and lights in as you go. So here we're going to see that this is a dark too, this area of the roof. And then this here, actually, over here, this is dark over here. Like that. So this is really catching some really serious shadows over there. And then again, we're going to do some okay, and then over here we're going to have some medium tonal values. So not quite dark as these here. So you can see how dark this is. And then over here on the siding, this looks like clapboard siding along this beautiful ocean home. Along the coast here, right on the ocean. We have that. So basically we've covered what our darks and lights are going to be as we work from the top down here right now. So here we have the fence, the darks and lights of the fence. And then we also have a hill over here. There might be some medium tones over here. And then over here we have some grass and weeds and things like this. And then over here we have light sand. So we could tap on this and just say, okay, that's going to be the sand. And then over here we have some grasses and sand. And these sand and grasses are a little darker in tonal value. So we're just going to, again, note this on our sketch now. This is our tonal value sketch. That's what we can call this, really. It's basically a tonal value sketch. And this is something you might do whenever you're starting a painting for the first time, especially when you're first starting out in watercolors or oil painting, whatever you like to paint. But especially in this video here, we're covering watercolors. This is basically your first thing you're going to want to do is if you're going out in painting outdoors, plein air, or if you're working from photographs or something from your phone, your iPad, your TV screen, however you're painting a book. You might be using some books. You might even use my new book. I have a new book out actually down below. You'll see it in the description box below. Also, I have a video that covers each of the pages of my book, a real quick video, maybe 2 minutes. So you'll see all the paintings that I have in there. That's really a helpful thing. You know, you don't want to buy a book if you can't see what's in it. So let's keep going here. So this would be the sand, light, very, very light tonal value, almost like white paper here. So you can kind of see we have this, and you did see the finished painting. So now you're kind of really catching up to speed on what we're doing here. We're just kind of creating a format for ourselves that we can refer back to as we paint. So what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll tape this up in front of me as I'm painting on my art table. So I stand when I paint here on YouTube. So you can imagine I'm standing at a table, my camera's directly overhead of me. And then I just tape this up in front of me. And then I have that dark and light sketch, that black and white sketch, that's going to kind of just cue me in on where my darks and my lights are going to be, and where my middle color, that middle tonal value, that middle kind of not too dark, not too light. We kind of covered that as we did that first sketch. So that's just what that's about. No reason to worry. So we have it all covered now. We did our basic sketch of what our painting's going to look like. We covered the darks and the lights of how it should look when we're painting. Next thing, all we have to do is do our quick pencil sketch to get the lines that we need in the right areas so that we can begin painting. And that's all really it is. It's a simple process like that. So you can figure your first process. We could even take our notes that we created, and we can just say our first process, our first step is our tonal value sketch. And that handles two key ingredients that we're going to need to focus on: the darks and lights of the painting, as well as the sketch, the actual drawing, what everything looks like, how the drawing should look. Once we have that, then we're going to go in and do the pencil drawing on our paper, watercolor paper. And the third part is the painting. So that's really it. So you can see, you will be able to quickly catch on to how you're going to start creating your paintings, your WYETH style paintings, and you can go online and research all of his paintings if you want on Google. You can Google Andrew WYETH, and you'll see all of his watercolor paintings. They're incredible. He paints, I guess, most times he's often painting very subtle colors where he's using a lot of like browns and tan colors, and using the white paper as well. So he doesn't do a lot of high intensity colors. Some paintings he does. I have to admit, I have seen some of his paintings he uses some high intensity colors. But a lot of times most of his paintings are kind of low key with just, very minimal browns, siennas, kind of earth tones. He uses a lot of earth tones in his paintings. You'll see that with some, also counterbalancing with some cool colors, cools, the blues, the purples. And that's what we're going to use here. But okay, all right, let's keep going here. But let's take a break first. We've been going here, oh my gosh, we've been going here for like 15, 20 minutes already. Okay, so we'll be right back, and we'll start the sketch, the pencil sketch, and then we'll get right into the painting. Okay, so we just took a quick break. I often mention, please take some breaks as you work. A lot of times it helps when you come back, you feel a little more refreshed, and you can you think a little more clearly, and maybe think of a few things that you maybe didn't think about before, some considerations as you're working on your paintings and your drawings and so forth as you go. But in any case, let's keep going here. So I did want to mention that the 3-step process that we are using is, one, we created this tonal value sketch, which you can see here, the darks and lights of the painting. You can do this with any artwork, any paintings that you might want to work on. Second thing, we're going to work on the pencil drawing next, which is we're going to use this as kind of like a little bit of some notes for us as we do the pencil sketch next. And then, of course, the final part is doing the painting itself, creating the painting. So I'll take this again, I'll put this and set this up in front of me here on my board in front of me. I have a little note board in front of me that I have some, I pin things up on my board. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll get our pencil here, and we'll just sketch in what we're going to create as far as our drawing, which is going to be the same as the tonal value sketch. So again, we'll do the same thing. We're just going to go thirds, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So we have 1, 2, and 3 3/3. We're going to the space divisions like that, like we said. And then the first space division again is going to be the kind of like the darker grasses and things like this in the painting. So these come across this way. And then we'll put little indications of some weeds and grasses and things. Like that. You might keep most of your grasses going in one direction. So maybe we'll keep them going sort of this way. So Most of the grasses and weeds and things are going to go this way. And maybe a few of them are going to go this way. But we'll keep most of them going this way, like that. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here on our 2/3, 1/3. We could even just make our notes here. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. A lot of times I know on camera when we're creating these videos, this doesn't always look the best. But I do want to put those notes on here so you can see how I'm making the space divisions in my painting going vertically. And then here again at the 2/3 location, or maybe a little below that, we're going to start to create a little bit of a hill like this that flows down this way. And that's where we're going to create our first bit of roof here. Like this. That's our first building with roof. And then our second rooftop is over here. It's a little bit lower, just above the roof eaves here. And then here we're going to go up with another section of roof here. And these two are pretty much even as far as the eaves of the roof here, like this. Like this here. So you're just going to want to keep these level this way, your roof. You can also use a ruler if you want to, and even sometimes a T-square ruler can really be helpful. If you, I think I have one maybe in the art supplies below. In my art supplies list, I might have a T-square ruler, but these T-square rulers are really good. You could set them down and rest them on your tape or your border that you've created and keep them kind of square, so your lines will be level across this way for your roofs. But you could also use something like this, like a ruler, just to kind of keep your ruler straight. Like you don't want to have your roofs like this or like this. You want to kind of keep them straight. So that's, you can do it with a ruler, just a little bit of a sketch. First, maybe you do a light line, and then you can get a little bit of a more of a little bit of a rolling kind of, undulating, or we don't want to make everything straight, perfectly straight lines, obviously. And then this here's the wall coming down here. So we have all that. And then over here again, we wanted to make our ocean. So that's some ocean over here. And these are sand dunes here along this beautiful house along the shore. Then over here we have our hurricane fence. So what we're going to do is just make some pencil sketches just to note on our paper where those fences are going to be. And I think we're going to stop there with our fence so that we're able to see the ocean over here. I'm going to leave the fence there. So I'm going to stop the fence there. And incidentally, WYETH actually painted in 2 locations. In Maine and also in Pennsylvania, Chaddsford, Pennsylvania, and Cushing, Maine. Those were his 2, I guess, places that he lived. So he would always, do the majority of his paintings there. So that's when you're looking at his paintings, you'll kind of know where he was painting. So it's more or less the East Coast of the United States. The Eastern United States, the Northeast. And I've traveled to all these areas, a lot, as, I've grown up in New Jersey in the United States, so Pennsylvania and Maine are very close to where I live, and I've traveled to both locations a lot over the years, and I can tell you that the areas are absolutely beautiful. Lots of farms, and of course on the East Coast you have tons of coastline, beaches, and gorgeous lighthouses, and all kinds of awesome things like that. So we'll do more of those paintings in the future. So let's keep going here. Again, we created the fence here, the hurricane fence. The buildings, the roofs. Maybe we'll have a couple chimneys. Let's do a few chimneys. And there's another chimney over here, I think. Like that. And then this over here is our... And you can shade in some areas are really, really dark so that you can kind of just notate it. But since you have your sketch that you already completed, which we did, you'll have that in front of you. You really don't need to do a lot of this shading with your pencil, but you could just add a few areas And then, of course, we're going to want to make our windows over here, just to have a few notes on our paper. So we can kind of, there might be a door over here. And there might be another window over here. And I think that's all we really need. I think we're all set. We have our pencil sketch now completed. Maybe I'll make a few more notes. There might be some, there's a little bit of some grass and dirt and things over here that sort of kind of flow over into this fenced area here where the hurricane fences are. And again, we had some, just some basic markings with our pencil to kind of get everything in. And we're good. Let's actually take another break. We'll get our brushes together. I'm going to gather my brushes that I'm going to use for this painting. I think we're only going to use maybe 2 different brushes, possibly 3 at most. And we have our paints pretty much set here. I think I might add some cerulean blue. A friend of mine just sent me some cerulean blue in the mail. One of our YouTube artists sent me a gift package of paints and papers and markers and all kinds of cool stuff. So, yeah, I think this is the tube of paint I just received. And I'll put some of that cerulean blue there. These are the really nice large tubes of watercolor paint. I try to buy these large tubes any time I can. And I keep them in a plastic bag next to my art table. And maybe I'll just spritz some water on here on the paints to get them prepped a little more. But that should be plenty good. All right, so I use a Holbein water spritzer bottle. I have that again in the bottom in the comments section. Again, I put all my art supplies down below just in case you are shopping for things and you want to get what I'm using. You know they're going to work good. I'm not going to put anything on my art supply list that doesn't work really well. Everything works really well. It's good quality. And you can shop around too. You can find some good deals, maybe some better pricing. But you always shop on Amazon again. So everything is down below that you might need. Okay, except for maybe the paints. I don't know if I have the paints in there, the watercolor paints, but I'll have to put that in the comments section below too, the paint colors that I use, and I'll put that in there eventually. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll start to develop the painting now. And it's, again, we've a lot of preparation before we do the painting, and that's going to make your painting be successful. If we just pick up brushes and paints and we don't think about some considerations as we're going forward with our painting and the design of our painting, that can be like, that can be really a problem. So that's why I always kind of share with you, like, these are the kind of the real good fail-safe steps you can use as you're creating your watercolor painting. Even if you're just starting for the first time, you're going to have good success right out of the gate, right out from the start, if you're just kind of covering these few steps again. And we did mention that the steps were very kind of straightforward. We just want to create a tonal value sketch, which is the light and the darks, which we did here. So this is what we did here, the lights and the darks of the painting. We just created the pencil drawing, and we used this as our guide for our pencil drawing. So we got this done correctly first when we did our drawing, and then now we just covered, we just created that same layout, that same drawing we derived here on this paper from this that we have across from us here set up. And then of course we'll do the painting next. So all these things are, again, really going to help you as a watercolor artist, or if you're just starting out and you want to just create a few fun paintings. I think you can do it with no problem. So let's, again, take a break, and we'll come right back and we'll start painting. Okay, so we're getting ready to paint now. The first thing I just wanted to mention is we're going to use the glazing technique here. Basically, let's just cover the glazing technique quickly. The glazing technique, we'll just kind of jot down some notes here. If you want to take notes, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Glazing technique. Okay, so the glazing technique, we're going to basically do one first wash is going to be a light wash. First wash is light wash. second wash or second glazing is medium and dark tones / values. So basically the glazing technique can be really simplified by just saying your first wash that you're going to do is going to be your light wash. It's kind of like a, you're going to kind of like tone your paper with some light color, the underwash. And then the second wash is going to be your medium and darker washes, and you're going to kind of do those all at the same time. So usually when you're doing the glazing technique, you're kind of doing it in two parts. So, you know, this is the first wash, light wash. We'll cover that right now. Then we're going to let the paper dry. So that's the first thing is first light wash, let dry 100%. So your first wash, you're going to want to get that on the paper and then let that dry 100%. You can use a blow dryer, or you can use just let it dry naturally, like 2-3 hours, whatever you think is good, but pretty much it has to be dry to the touch. And there shouldn't be any buckles in the paper. So that's kind of how you know when your paper's dried, is if there's no buckling of your paper. And then your second wash will go over the top once your paper's dry from your first wash. So we're going to do that two-part glazing technique process right now. Okay, for this painting, WYETH used kind of like a peachy kind of color, orangey red, peachy kind of color for the whole first glazing. And then on top of that, he used more, you know, warm and cool colors. So what I'll do is I'll get some fresh, clean water in my water bucket. I have a few water buckets in my, you know, in the description box below. Again, I have all my art supplies, but I'm using a water bucket, collapsible water container. Fresh, clean water when we start out, especially if we're doing a light wash on the first glazing, the first wash. And then I'm using a number 30, Da Vinci number 30 flat brush, which you can see is very, very thin. You can kind of see how thin that looks, right? This is actually a oil and I think when I purchased this, I thought it was for watercolor, but actually it is, you can use it for watercolor. Obviously, I'm using it for watercolor, it's fine. But I think it actually is a watercolor and a acrylic brush. But that doesn't matter. This is a synthetic hair brush, flat brush, and it works great for watercolors. So I use it, and I think it's in the description box below. So what I'll do is we'll make a peachy color to go across the whole paper, just that first light glazing, that first light wash. So this is the simple portion of your painting. So we're going to create a peach type color, which would be orange. So we'll do some orange here. And some alizarin crimson. So we have cadmium orange and alizarin crimson. That should get us a good kind of peach color. Let's see if that works. And I have a little bit of blue in there, so that does not matter. That's fine. If you have a little bit of leftover paints in your paint box, that's fine. So we have some orange, and then we do some alizarin crimson, like this. Okay, so that's sort of like a peachy color. Yeah, that looks good. So what I'll do is I'll mix it up over here, and then I'll bring it down here just to make it a little lighter. I don't want to make it too dark of a wash. So I'll take some of my wash and come down here and do this. Then what I'll do is I'll rinse off my brush, and then I'm gonna wet the whole paper with fresh, clean water. So now I'm just gonna go over the entire paper here, my watercolor paper, with a very light wash, I'm just dampening the paper all the way down. So if you can imagine, this is all you have to do. Take your brush, put it in the water, fresh, clean water, and just give a light wash of clean water, some fresh, clean water. That's all you have to do. Simple as that. Are you following me? This is easy. Okay, your first wash is easy. Your first glazing is simple. We had to work really hard to do our sketch, but now we can have fun. Now we're going to do our first wash of fresh, clean water. Okay, so we have that all on the paper. Just like that. Okay. Now that the paper is damp like that, we can let it sit for a few seconds. And then we'll start taking our kind of that peachy color. Might need a little more orange. And then let's just get our peachy kind of orange going across the whole painting. And that's all you want to do is put a whole wash across the entire painting, like an underglazing. We could call this an underpainting, an underglazing of that peach color. And that's going to be like this color of the sand. It might have a little bit of yellow in there. Maybe we'll put some raw sienna in there. So maybe I neglected to add a little bit of the raw sienna, which is kind of a gold color. So I'll just mix that in. But there we go. We're pretty much in great shape. We have that nice light, peachy, golden color. Maybe we'll again add some raw sienna here. Just like this. And if you cover that whole paper just like this, and the last bit of brush strokes I'm going to do are all horizontal like this, right across the whole paper. And that is it. That's all you have to do. Now at this point, all you have really, the next step is just letting this dry. Watching paint dry, as they say. And what you can do is you can also take some paper towel and kind of like mop up any water puddles that are flowing down to the bottom of your paper or on the sides of your paper. So I'll use a paper towel just to lift up some of the excess water. If there's any, you should have not too much water left. Like there shouldn't be any, there shouldn't be much water flowing off the bottom of your paper or on the sides of your paper because you're just adding a light wash of color. But sometimes I know you're going to add a little excess water. It happens. That's just all about watercolor, learning how much water and paint to use as you go about your painting. But that is fine. So see how we have that beautiful kind of like peach kind of glazing over the whole paper? Now it's just a matter of letting it dry. You can let this dry 2-3 hours naturally, or you can use a blow dryer in 5 or 10 minutes and you can dry it off. The main thing is you'll know your painting is dry when the paper is flat and there's no buckles in it. That's the main thing, because when you start to work with your roofs and all the other details on this painting, you wouldn't want to have that paper buckled, and you know, because that'll make things really difficult to get those paint strokes on your painting really neatly and you know, in a good fashion. So that's why we always say when you do your first wash, your first glazing, you're going to let that dry 100%. So if it takes 2-3 hours to dry, fine. If you want to use a blow dryer, hey, that's great too. You can use a blow dryer maybe 5-10 minutes to get it really dry. As long as there's no buckles and waves in your paper and you dry it out so it's flat again, your paper, you're going to be fine. Okay, all right, so I'll take a quick break. I'm going to use a blow dryer now, and it makes a lot of noise, so I'll shut the camera off, and then we'll come right back once my blow drying is done here and everything's dry. Then we'll come back and we'll start working on our second wash. All right, we're coming back. The paper is now 100% dry. I forgot to mention, sometimes you're going to want to do maybe a second and then a third wash. So if we look at our notes again, if we take our notes here and we take a look quick, sometimes you're going to want to do maybe, let's say, a intermediate wash between your first wash and your second wash with your darker tones and colors. So you could sometimes have a second wash here between your first and, like, let's say your third wash. So we could call this our third wash. Okay, so we say third wash is the medium darks, and then we would say second wash. We'd say our second wash is maybe just medium light washes of color, if necessary. If necessary. So that's why as watercolor artists, we're always light on our feet. We're always nimble. We have to sometimes add some things in, delete some things out as we're working. Think quick. So this is where when I'm looking at the finished painting, where I'm looking at now at the finished painting that I created, I'm looking and I'm saying, yeah, I did a second wash before I did my really darker washes at the last part of the painting. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to do a second wash, and we'll do the same process. If we do our second wash now, our second glazing, we're going to let that dry 100% too before we start our third wash. Okay, so just wanted to mention that now. Let's do our second wash. Now this one's going to be kind of like some medium tones. And what I'll do is I'll use, this is a little bit of a smaller flat brush. So this one is a 5/8 inch synthetic brush by Princeton Art and Brush Company. This brush comes in like a pack of 6 brushes. So you have, in the 6-pack, you might have like 2 round brushes, two or 3 flat brushes, and maybe like another, maybe like a cat's tongue brush, a brush or something like that. So you do, some of these come in 6-packs where they're kind of very inexpensive. This is a synthetic. The Princeton Art and Brush Company makes great brushes, synthetic brushes, and these I use for like beginners style paintings, but I use them on, you know, more advanced paintings that we're doing here on my channel. So you'll see that in the description box below, the Princeton Art and Brush Company synthetic brushes, watercolor brushes. So we'll use this one, and we'll just get some water. And what I'll do is I'll take some cerulean blue, and this will be sort of our lighter, kind of a middle tone, like this. And we'll maybe add a little bit of purple, which is ultramarine violet, like that. And I think that will be really good. Let's let's do a little bit of the lighter tones like this. So you can go, you can take your brush, and if you're left-handed, you can go this way. If you're right-handed, you can paint this way. But this is basically going to go all the way across here. This is going to be on all the roofs. So you're just doing like basically an underglazing of this light purple and blue color. But it should be light though. You don't want to go too dark. We're making like a medium tone. And you can just do that and go like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can also use a tissue or a paper towel if you go over a section where it might be a little bit, if you paint over an area that you didn't want to, no problem. You just grab a tissue or a paper towel, blot up a little bit, that's fine. And then actually I wanted to add a little bit of blue wash, a little bit of this same blue wash here with my larger number 30. I wanted to add a little bit of that in the sky wash up here. So as you can see, I'm sort of just adding a little bit of that bluish purple in the sky over here, just a little bit. And then we'll continue with this here. Like that. And then this here, again, we're going to need it over here on this area. So I guess we're doing like that second glazing before our third glazing. And as you can see, nothing too fancy. We're just covering the areas of the roof and the buildings, the house here. This is a beautiful shore house here. So we're doing that. And then we have a little bit of this here, a little bit of glazing here. Let's do a little bit here, just on the, like this here, cross that way. And then over here, let's do some here. We're going to do some light wash over here, under painting, even more under painting. You can kind of flow this way if you want. The wind's kind of going this way. So the wind is kind of coming off the ocean this way. And we're going to do our grasses and our weeds this way, flowing this way. So if your brush strokes can go this way too, that's even better yet. Have everything kind of flowing in the same direction, your brush strokes. You'll see it actually. It might not seem like a too important of a factor right now as we're painting, but you'll be surprised if you add some of your brush strokes and you keep them going in the same direction like this. And here too, if you can. You will notice that it actually does make a difference when your final painting is completed. Okay, so that's good. And there's a little more here. I'll just do a little bit of like this. Like that. Okay, that looks really good. I think we're going to find that doing that second glazing is really going to be helpful. Okay, now what I'll do is the same thing I did before. I'll let this dry 100%. So what I'll do is stop the tape quick and wait for this to dry. I'll use actually my blow dryer, so that'll only take me 5-10 minutes. So I'll get a little bit of a breather. I'll sit down. I stand when I paint at my art table here as I create my videos. And so I don't know, maybe you're going to be sitting down. Maybe you sit while you're working and when you're doing your watercolor paintings, or maybe you stand too as well. Maybe you work at your kitchen table, or maybe you work on an easy chair with a stack tray, or maybe a small table. I don't know how you work, but I'm sure all of you have great setups and wonderful setups that you use for your painting at your home, in your studio. So, but I'll take a quick break again, and then we'll come right back, and then we're going to get into our third glazing, which is going to be the dark darks of the painting and the final details. So we'll get into that next. And again, you're well on your way to creating a beautiful WYETH painting. Right now, you're kind of, rounding the clubhouse turn. You're pretty much going to be close to the finish line here right now as we go. The darks are going to be that last finishing kind of bit of details that you'll do on your painting that'll just put everything together. It'll kind of just cohesively bring your painting to a beautiful conclusion. And I think you'll be really happy with this. So let's let this dry 100% on our second glazing, our second coat, our second wash. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do that third glazing, which is going to be the dark darks. Okay, so we'll come right back and get started with the third glazing. All right, so we're now at our point where we're going to do our third glazing, our third wash. Basically, we're just going to put all the darker tonal values, the dark darks, in the painting. And again, this is where when we started out doing our first tonal value sketch, we kind of worked out where those darkest darks were going to go. Through here, underneath the roof eaves, a little bit on the roof here, along here, a little bit on the sand dunes over here, on the fence. We're going to have some dark darks on the fence, the hurricane fence, and then we'll have a couple of darks over here and here. So the darks are going to be like the least most common kind of like feature in our painting here, on this painting in particular. So we're going to have more lights. As you can see, the sky is light, the sand through here is very light. Then we have some medium values here too, some medium tonal values, and then the darks are just kind of a little more sporadic. They're not as much. So that's a good kind of pleasing composition. WYETH was, again, the master, one of the giants of watercolor through our history in America for watercolor artists. So let's put that across from us again. We'll get a little spritzer on our paints, and then let's get some more colors mixed up here. So what I'll do is I'll mix up some darks. Now, for our darks here, let's mix up a really good standard mixture of darks, which would be French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. So you have French ultramarine blue and burnt umber like this, and a little bit of burnt sienna too, a little bit of warm in there. little bit of that earth tone. So if you can kind of get that mixture of those three colors, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and burnt sienna, that should be plenty good to get some really beautiful darks. You can also add in some cobalt blue down here and cerulean blue to kind of like modulate this color a little bit, to, you know, mix up this color a little more than what we have here. So again, we have the French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and then down here we add a little bit of cerulean blue and cobalt blue. And between these 5 colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what do we have here? Yeah, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, and 3. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, and then even a little bit of ultramarine violet, a little bit of that purple. So we can even add that little bit of extra, like that. Okay. So let's see how this works out now. We're gonna, now as you can see here, this is not puddly color here. This is really straight tube paint. Can you see that? You can see it. There's not big puddles of water in these paints right now, because we're doing the darks. The darks are going to be essentially, really, when you think about it, they're going to be basically the straight tube, the soft, moist tube paint on our palette here. That's going to be the darks. So if you were to add a lot of water to any one of these colors, it would be too light. It would not really be a dark, really. So when you're creating your darks, always remember you're going to use almost no water. You're just basically going to use almost straight paint, and that'll get you the darks that you need. So let's come over here, and I'll start from, I'm right-handed, so usually good rule of thumb, you could write this down if you want to, just a little note if you want to. You're the artist, you're going to, make some notes if you want to, or you might just, you have a great memory, you don't need to write anything down, that's fine. I know a lot of people like that I work with sometimes. They don't need to write anything down. For this here, we will notice that if you're a right-handed person, when you're doing your paintings generally with watercolors, you're going to want to work from left to right like this. And what that does is it gives you a really good advantage. You're not going to be leaning into any of your paint as you're going across the painting. And if you're left-handed like this, well, then you'd work from your right side of your painting and work over to your left. This way you're not leaning into any of your paints, if that makes sense. So here, if I start as a right-handed person, I start on my right side. I start on my left side of my painting here, and I work this way. And this way I'm not going to have a problem with leaning into my paint, because everything's going to be like so. Okay, so there, let's do that. And let's get this chimney there. And then now at this point you could, while using this flat brush, you could also implement a round brush, which I will do here. And this is a number 8 travel brush, Kolinsky Sable travel brush, which is made by Da Vinci. And what I do is I take my brush, I add some water to it, I dampen up the brush, and then what I do is I just sort of dampen up the paper up here, and then I add some, I noticed that I could use a little bit of alizarin crimson here. Like this. And I smooth out that dark like that. So you see how I'm just taking that dark we put on with the flat brush, and then I take my round brush here, I dry off a little bit of the water, so I just have a damp brush, dry off a little bit of the water when I rinse my brush, and then I just smooth this on out. And look at that, we have a really good wash for the roof there. And then we're going to continue right on down here. I'll use a little bit of this blue over here, dark, like that. So you can use your square brush as much as you want. You might use your square brush here a little bit if you want. That might work. Yeah, that works pretty good there. And we get some wash on there. And then maybe we go in again and get some alizarin crimson, mix with some of the blue, and we'll do that. We'll come right across this way. And I think we're coming along really well. If you want, sometimes you can use a tissue or a paper towel and you can blot up a little bit of color if you think you want to lighten up an area that you might have went a little dark on. You can do that. You see how I did that? I just take the paper towel and gently blot up a little bit of the wash. Not a lot. I wouldn't press hard. I'd press lightly, and you can kind of lift up and make a little bit of a light there. That's a really good technique to use when you're doing watercolors. And then over here, we're doing the same thing. We're going to come over here and just do our darker dark over here. And I'll rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the paint. And I'll just get some darks here over this side a little bit. So you can kind of see I'm trying to make a little bit of a blues. There's a lot of blues in this. I see the roof colors like that. And there we go. Looks good. Now, we're really coming along well here. We have our rooftops, our roofs actually in place. Let's maybe use a little bit of a dark here for our other chimney there. And then what we can do there, if that chimney goes a little bit long there, we can just lift up the paint with some paper towel like that. There we go. Now, we're going to want to add in some really dark darks here. So we're going to use our super dark darks, which is our French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna. And now we're going to go in with some really good super darks under here. And what happens is here, we're going to be where the fence is, we're going to have that little bit of that wash, this super dark wash under the roof eaves here. That's going to be a little bit of like a rounded bit of painting edge, because we're kind of going across the tops of that fence that we're going to create. And then this goes over here, and this goes straight across. There's some really good strong darks under here, like this. And then like that. And this is a little lighter, so again, if you go over an area and you think it's a little too dark, again, don't worry about it. Take a little bit of a tissue or a paper towel and just lift up a little bit like this. And there we have it. And you can go back in and get some more darks and just maybe get a little bit of a line there, a little bit of a dark there, like that. Now, let's see what else we have. We have some more over here. I'll rinse off my brush again, dry off a little bit of the water. See, the key is, if you can always have a tissue or a paper towel on hand, what you can do is you can rinse off your brush and then dry off a little bit of the water on your brush on a paper towel or tissue nearby, or even a sponge. You can keep a sponge on your table that you're working with. And then what that does is it keeps your paints from getting all watery and puddles developing in your palette. Because remember what we said, when we're doing the darks now, we want to keep all of our paint dark and basically fresh squeezed to paint in our palette. We don't want to have puddles of water and puddles of colors with lots of water in our palette. We want to keep it really, really pretty much just straight paint. So you can kind of see this is pretty much straight paint we're using right now. And that's what you want to do when you're last glazing. So here we have the dark darks. We'll keep working those. And then we have some more dark darks here. This is kind of a, it's not quite that dark, but it is getting there. So we're going to do that over here on this portion of this house. Okay. And we'll tie these together a little bit over here. Okay, good, looks good. And we'll have a little bit of a dark up here. Like that. All right, so we are really coming along nicely. Now let's get our fence kind of in good shape here. So again, I'll use this smaller round brush. This is again a 5/8 inch Princeton Art and Brush Company synthetic brush, which again down below you'll see in the comment section below, you'll see all my art supplies, and I do have the brushes that are the Princeton Art and Brush Company brushes that are synthetic watercolor brushes, and these are fantastic. These really work great. So what we're going to do now is you're going to see how this brush is going to get us some beautiful fence, hurricane fence shapes. Now, see how we're doing this? So I'm going to do some darks here. Like that. Then I'll rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water. Then I'll go in with some lighter wash, maybe like this here. Like that. Then I'll maybe mix in some warmer colors. Let me do that. Let me add a little bit of the gold. I forgot to mention that too. Kind of always try to get some warm and cool colors. When you're working with your watercolors, try to always have some warm and cool colors. And you know, that would be like, your warm and cool colors would be basically, all your warm colors are over here. Your reds, your yellows, golds, greens are sort of cool. So once I get into my greens and blues, that's my cooler colors. And then the browns and the reds and the earth colors are all warm. So just a good thing to remember is if you can kind of mix your colors and have them warm and cool all the time as you work your paintings, you're going to have a really nice effect. And so then this here we can kind of, these are a couple of happy hurricane fence posts over here, like that. And then we're going to take some of those dark darks again, and we're going to come over here and just sort of get a little bit of a bit of dark here, like that. Then let's come over, and then we're going to do a quick little bit of cobalt blue, and we're going to want to create some watercolors here, which is blue. That's the ocean. Let's get that in there, just like that. Not a big to do, just get that little bit of ocean color in there. That's a happy ocean color, and that's going to just kind of light up this side of the painting over here with that bit of water color, that bit of the ocean color. And then we can add just a little bit of warm colors, earth colors to that. So it kind of blends in and ties in a little easier, like that. maybe a little bit of blue over here. Like that. Okay, so you already see things are really coming along nicely. Let's do a few more darks over here. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna. And I noticed there are some darks over here, over this way. And these are some rocks, some beautiful dark black rocks over here along the house. Beautiful house along the shore. And there's some gorgeous rocks, natural rocks that are found along the ocean areas, the coastal areas. There we go. And then there's maybe some shadows over here. For the chimneys. Again, we said the light's coming from in front of us, this way. So this would be the shadows in front of the chimneys, like that. And there should be some dark under here too. And some warmth too. Let's add some warmth into that. Some raw sienna. All right, now we can also I have another Princeton Art and Brush Company paintbrush. And this is another flat brush, smaller, even yet. This is a number 6. And what I'll do is I'll take that number 6. And again, all these art supplies are in the description box below. And we'll make our windows over here and our doors. So we're just working our windows and doors over here. Just like this. And there's another window up here, like this. And there's another window over here. And I think there's a door somewhere over here, but I don't think I'm going to worry about that. Maybe we could put a door over here, just back over here. Like that. And what do we have next? I might blot up a little bit of paint over here, like that. What else do we have? All right, we're coming along nicely here. Let's get some more raw sienna over here. And then I'll just take my, again, we're using the number 6 flat brush, Princeton Art Brush Company flat brush. And I'm just going to get a little bit of that goldish, maybe we're going to introduce a little bit of green. Raw sienna and sap green, maybe a little bit of olive green. But again, with Wyeth, he did kind of keep his palette a lot of times pretty simple, so maybe we just want to keep it maybe some raw sienna, not too much green. Like that. And I scrub along a little bit like this. And a little bit of burnt sienna there. Like that. All right. Coming along good here. A couple more little scrubs over here. And what else? Let's keep working over here. Let's get some, I'm going to scrub in some shadowing there. Raw sienna. Like that. Maybe some darks. Okay. And then I'm going to shift back over to my number 8 round brush to get some of this wash in over here. I might even use the 5/8 inch flat brush here to get some of these raw sienna, raw umber. And as you can see, I'm going this way. And if you flow your brush this way, like this, that's really going to kind of make a feeling of the wind and the atmosphere of the ocean here, kind of going on a flow this way. And that could be a really good raw umber, raw sienna, a little bit of cerulean blue. If you find you put too much cerulean blue in, lift it up like that. Rinse off the brush, and then just go back in and get more raw umber and raw sienna, like that. And just kind of keep that flow of the brush going this way. And these brushes, incidentally, are really durable. The synthetic brushes, you can really scrub your paper like this, like we're doing now, and it's not going to hurt the brush in the least. Like that. And I'm trying to get all of my areas along the tape. I put tape on my watercolor paper and make a border around my watercolor paper all the time with tape. Artist tape or painter's tape. Then you can go in and grab a little bit of paper towel, and you can do a couple of little passes here like this with some like that. Okay. Then a little more of those darks. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. And we just have a little more of the darks, maybe over here, a little bit extra. A bit of dark there. And a little bit of extra dark there. So we're just going to try to make some bits of dark. There's some extra bits of... I just take a little bit of the brush and kind of do a couple upstrokes like that. And that looks really good. And I'll just do some touch-ups over here as I'm looking there. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we're kind of really... You can take a couple nail scrapes here with your nails, your fingernails, just to get some lines going. And then another thing we can do is, if you don't mind adding, you have to work up everyone that's working in watercolor. You tend to, over time, you purchase different brushes as you go, and you build up your arsenal of brushes. So I'm going to use my Hake brush. This happens to be my Ron Ranson Hake brush that I got at Cheap Joe's Art Supplies. I rinse off the brush, get it damp, and what I do is I take the brush and then I sort of take the brush like this and just kind of take the hairs of the brush and do this. And then I come over here into the palette and I just get some of that color. And then you just do a couple of little bits of grass. But like we said, everything's flowing this way, so I would do the grasses like this. So you can kind of just do some quick, like that. And what happens is when you're you're doing your details like this, it really enhances the foreground to make the foreground look really, really good. So that's good. Then we can even, going a little bit further, we could take a needlepoint brush like this, which has a really, really fine point. So you can kind of see that needlepoint brush has a really, really fine point. And again, I have all my brushes and everything down in the description box below my videos. And this way you have everything you could ever need as far as researching all of your brushes, your paints, your palettes, your papers, all of that's down below, just in case you need to reference that. I know some of you, many of you probably already have all of these brushes and mostly everything similar to these things and everything, the paper, the paints. But some of you that are just starting out, you're going to maybe need a little bit of time to build up your arsenal and kind of get all your art supplies and things together. And so you go a little bit at a time, but now you'll see I'll do my fine calligraphy right now. I'm going to do, again, all the wind is kind of pulling everything this way. So we'll just kind of add these fine bits of grass and things over this way. And again, I'll use the French ultramarine blue. I'll add a little bit of the green in there, the sap green, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. And then we'll just do a few more of these. And I think that's it, really. Once you get these last final bits of detail with the needlepoint brush, and you know, you really, a couple over here too as well. Again, once you're over here, you're not going to see too much. Like over here, you're not going to see much detail because this is more in the distance. So I wouldn't do much detail over here, like up here. But over here, you can do more details with the fine Hake brush and the calligraphy and things like this. You get that sort of happening there. I did notice I needed to add a little bit of dark darks, which is the French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna. So I try to get those three in, and I just needed to get this over here. This is this side of the roof over here. Like that. So that I know I needed to get in there, which was important. And I think all right, so now as we're finishing up, I did notice that my camera did shut off while I was working, and I didn't even realize it. Sometimes my camera does shut off, it overheats a little bit. But nonetheless, let's zoom in just a touch here. And I think these are the things that you didn't see that I was painting in, but what I did is I painted in 3 figures here. So I just added some, blue for blue jeans and some purple for figures. And then I added a little bit of burnt sienna and cadmium red to make some flesh colors for the faces of our figures here. Like that. And then I used some, again, purple with a little bit of the blue and brown mixture just to dull down the purple a little bit. And what I did is I made some purple shadowing here for the figures as well as the fence. So we had some hurricane fence here. So I just wanted to get that shadowing under there for the hurricane fence as well as the figures. And then the rest kind of worked out perfect. You could add a little more, you could add a little bit of shadowing underneath these weeds and grasses and things. That would just add to the excitement of the painting and mystery and beautiful shadows and things like that. You can always add some extra details, but I wouldn't go too overboard with details because sometimes that can ruin a painting. But something like this is something Andrew Wyeth would do. He would make really like just thousands of small grasses and things as he was painting. So some of his paintings, you'll notice he probably spent days and days, even weeks, creating very, very fine details in his paintings in the foregrounds where, you know, you would justify putting in a lot of detail in the foreground where you would see all the little wisps of grasses and little shadows and maybe little flowers and things. You could do that. Once you get further into the middle distance of your painting over here where the building is, the beautiful shore home here, and the fence and all that, you wouldn't see too much detail there. But again, Andrew Wyeth never shied away from putting in lots of details in the foregrounds of his paintings, actually. And again, he probably spent weeks and weeks a lot of times. You can check out his paintings online and see the great details that he would put into his paintings that made him the great painter that he was. So we could also just here, we can isolate the painting by lifting up our tape. And this kind of just borders the painting beautifully, makes a nice crisp edge, almost like a mat. Before you frame a painting, usually you put a mat around it, not always. And then you can kind of see how it looks a little bit with, we lift up the tape and we go back a little bit like that. So now you can see how the painting looks, and you can even imagine a beautiful gold frame around this, like a nice kind of ornate gold frame might look really beautiful with some of these paintings, especially Wyeth's paintings, where he has more of a limited palette and he doesn't use a lot of colors. You know, you can kind of get away with a really fancy ornate frame. It wouldn't hurt at all. But that's framing, and maybe we'll do some framing videos eventually in the future. Maybe you'll thumbs up and let me know in the comment section if you want to do some videos on framing. I frame my own paintings most times. Sometimes I do bring them to the framing shops. They do an incredible job framing near me, where I have a number of framing shops that do incredible work. But sometimes I do my own framing as well. It depends. In any case, let's have a wonderful time now working on this project. I know many of you are going to have a really fun time doing this. All of you are going to have a fun time doing this, and you just take it to the level that you want to. So you can add less details if you want, or more details if you want to a painting like this. But pretty much, again, we covered A to Z, how to create this painting. Watch the video a couple times maybe first before you try the painting if you're kind of new at watercolors. I know when I first started watercolors, I watched a ton of videos on YouTube. I bought DVDs of watercolor artists. I was always looking at paintings, so don't ever worry about your level. If you're just starting out, you're not going to create phenomenally good paintings at first. It's going to take some time, but the whole point is you're just always practicing and working at it, and you just keep doing that, and eventually you're just going to always be making progress in that respect. So never worry. If you have some problems, you start another painting. You just take your paper, flip it over on the other side the next day, and start another painting. If you have a problem with your painting that's too difficult that you can't repair it, a lot of times I always suggest just paint the whole painting all the way through. If you run into problems in the middle of your painting, don't worry, just keep going. Because a lot of times in the beginning of a painting, you might run into a few issues or problems, but you just keep working through it. Just keep working on the painting as if you're just going to keep toward the goal of all the things that we're kind of covering here, where you're trying to get your sketch in first. When you start out, you're getting your plan of where your darks and your lights are, and then you just keep working through that. And then once you get into the painting, you're mixing your colors and kind of working lights to darks. Here in this painting, we're doing the glazing technique. So you're doing all your light washes first, letting it dry 100%, coming back over with another the middle tones, the middle tonal values. When that dries 100%, then you come over and you do your final darks. And you'll have a good result, I think, if you kind of just stick with that game plan. And again, stick with the video, kind of maybe watch along as you paint with the video and use it as your tool or your guide to help you to get a better result. Okay, all right. Hey, thanks again for coming by. I'm hoping you're going to subscribe on the right-hand side below so you don't miss anything. We're here every week after week, month after month, year after year. We are always here for you. So when we're talking watercolors, we're always here. We're together in the watercolor medium, working and enjoying the process, enjoying the watercolor journey. So we'll see you soon on the next video, okay? Bye-bye.